Welcome to today's session on the Buddhist teachings on universal loving kindness, the Metta Sutta. And we are very lucky to have Dharma Master Andrew Williams back with us again. So a bit about Dharma Master Andrew Williams. Dharma Master Andrew Williams has been a Dharma teacher since 1998, initially in the USA and now in Australia. He has studied and received teachings in all of the three major Buddhist traditions of Theravada, Mahayana and Vajrayana, and is currently a resident teacher at the Tu An Buddhist Monastery in Melbourne, as well as occasionally teaching at various other temples, Dharma centers, Buddhist clubs, retreats, and in the general public. So we'll start with a guided meditation and talk from Dharma Master Andrew, and then the second half of the session will be a Q&A discussion facilitated by the lovely Tina. So without further ado, over to you, Andrew.
I will do some chanting, just a couple of minutes, and even the prayers that we would normally do 3 times, I'll just do once, just for convenience today. And then we will do a little bit of meditation to release the stress or tension in the body, then focusing on the mind, anapanasati, breath meditation or mindfulness of the breath. And then we will do loving kindness meditation. Of course, these will be brief, and I encourage you in your own time to actually do longer sessions. And then I will give commentary on the sutta. Namo dasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. We take refuge until we're enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential we create by practicing the Dharma, may we soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. We shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire us to be able to do so. Reverently we prostrate with our body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. We confess all of our negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. We dedicate the virtues of ourselves and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, we vow to save them all. However inexhaustible our delusions are, we vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, we vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, we vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme. Kayata gate gate para samgate bodhi soha. So quite often I like to say that just as we stretch before we exercise, quite often we do chanting before we do meditation. Kind of helps the mind to calm down a little bit, to be more focused, to be mindful, aware, conscientious. So now you can forget everything I just said, and we'll do the meditation in this moment. Remember, the past is gone. This present moment is actually fleeting too. And the future never comes. So bring your mind to your body, inside your body now. And we will release the tension from the tips of the toes, up your legs, up to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and then back to the top of your head. So I'll give you some brief guidance with this now. So all around your feet, release the tension. and your lower legs, all around your knees and upper legs. All around the midsection of the body, front, sides, and back. And up your top part of your body now, in your stomach and sides, lower back. And keep working your way upwards. Your chest and underneath your arms, the center of your back, and the upper back to the shoulders. Now work your way down your arms to the tips of your fingers. And now release the tension from around your neck. The back of your head and sides of your head. And all over your face. The chin, the jaws. Make sure you're not clenching your jaws. The mouth nice and relaxed. The lips gently touching. Tongue resting on the upper palate inside the mouth. Your nose and sinuses and eye sockets and eyes. And release the tension from your forehead. Make sure you're not frowning. And finally, the crown of your head. And now briefly, just scan your body the same way we just did, just really quickly, to see if there's any more leftover tension that you can release. And when you are ready, bring your focus initially to the tip of your nose. The object of the meditation is the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose all the way into your lungs. And then back out your nose again. You may notice that the air is quite cool as you breathe in past your throat. And the lungs expand as they fill with the air and compress as you breathe out. And the air is quite warm as it passes your throat on the way out. I may add that you can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths, if you like. But don't count past 10. Otherwise, the counting may become the focus. So one in-breath and one out-breath is 1, and so on and so forth. But if you get distracted while you're counting your breaths towards 10, then go back to 1 at that time. As we're practicing the meditation, if thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Also, don't try to force it away or deny it. But simply replace your mind back onto your breath and let that mental activity just subside naturally. Let it go naturally by refocusing on your breath. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then replace your mind onto your breath more brightly. This way, replacing your mind or refocusing your mind onto your breath is both the antidote for the agitated mind as well as the dull mind. Don't try too hard. Don't try too little. Not too tight, not too loose. So let's practice like this for a short while in silence. At different points during your silent breath meditation, you can check your mind just to be sure that you haven't wandered off the object, start telling stories mentally, or become sleepy. So check your intention, make sure your intention is pure. That your focus is good and bright. And also check your body to make sure you haven't tensed up through habits. You may have certain habitual tendency to tense your body in different areas. Just make sure you haven't tensed up as well. And then gently go back to the object, the breath. The breath, or the feeling of the breath, is a very good object for meditation. If you consider the fact that breathing is the most important physical thing that we actually do, all of the other activities, the ones you enjoy, the ones that make you very happy, and the opposite as well, all of these activities wouldn't happen without the breath. From a physical point of view. Also, it has the tendency to bring the mind inside the body. as you focus on the breath, breathing in your nose all the way into your lungs, then back out again. Tends to help us to be in the present moment, as we say. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in this short session of breath meditation. I like to say that even if you only do meditation for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or something, this will also help you to improve your concentration, improve your mental and physical well-being, and many more benefits. But of course, like I said before, it's good if you can do longer sessions, whatever suits you. Could be 10 minutes, could be 20 minutes, could be an hour or more. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, but also don't be lazy. So now we will switch meditation techniques and fill yourself with universal loving kindness, friendship, goodwill. Respect yourself, appreciate yourself, be grateful, accept. You can utilize the feeling of universal loving kindness, or you can also utilize some visualization. Visualize your whole being filled with white light, or if you prefer, white nectar. Feel this universal loving kindness and friendship pervade your whole being. So much so that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family and friends, and fills them with the universal loving kindness too. You can have the wish that they be happy and have the causes of happiness, that they are free from suffering and the causes of suffering, that they are peaceful. Once again, you can just go with the feeling and bringing them to thought, to your mind, or you can even use a visualization, visualizing that they are full now of universal loving kindness, that they are happy, that they are free from pain and suffering, and that they are peaceful. So now radiate further and further. Now include those you may regard as strangers, that you have indifference towards. Fill them with the universal loving kindness too. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now also include those you find very difficult, may even regard as enemies. Fill them with the universal loving kindness as well. You may notice that we start with ourselves, then our loved ones, quite easy to do, and even strangers, very easy to do because you don't have any negative feelings towards them. But this one now, this type of person that you are radiating the universal love and kindness to now, maybe is a little bit more difficult in relation to our mental habits. So this helps us to let go of our bias, let go of our attachments and aversions, and develop a mind of equanimity. So fill them with the universal loving kindness and also wish that they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. May all of these three types of people, from our own perspective, may they have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful. Now we will radiate our loving kindness out further and further gradually, distance-wise, starting in your immediate area. And share your loving kindness to all living beings around here, whether they live on the land or even under the land, whether they live in the waters, whether that be the fresh water or salt water, fly through the air. Whether you have an affinity towards some, or indifference towards most of them probably, and even others you may fear. Share your loving kindness with all of these living beings, and even the ones you're not aware of. Now radiate further and further. Our loving kindness, radiating outwards, is gathering so much momentum now. It's covering great distance. Include your whole state or county and all of the living beings that abide here. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world. Initially those that you have an affinity towards, then those that you are indifferent towards, as well as those countries that for whatever reason you may have some sort of negative feelings towards. Have your loving kindness pervade all throughout this world, throughout these countries, throughout the oceans, all the way to the center of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. And now beyond this world alone, throughout the whole solar system. And other solar systems throughout the galaxy. All of the galaxies throughout the universe. Until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space, without limit, without measure. You can also remind yourself that we are all interrelated too, throughout this infinite space. Now remain filled with this universal loving kindness, pervading throughout infinite space, and I will chant the Metta Sutta, the teaching part. This is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. May they be able and upright, honest of gentle speech and not proud. May they be content and easily supported, unburdened with their senses calmed. May they be wise and not arrogant and without desire for the possessions of others. May they do nothing mean or that the wise would reprove. May all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. Let no one deceive or despise another being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm upon another. just as a mother would protect her only child with her life. Even so, let one radiate this boundless love towards the entire world, above and below and in all directions, without hindrance, without ill will, without enmity. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours, may one remain mindful of this heart and this way of living that is the best in the world, unattached to speculations, views, and sense desires. With clear vision, such a person will never be reborn in the cycles of suffering. And so now you can open your eyes, unless you prefer to keep them closed, no problem. Actually, I remember many years ago, probably in the 80s and 90s, when I attended Dharma talks, in fact, even into the 2000s, I used to keep my eyes closed in Dharma talks. I didn't want to be distracted by the visual things around me. And I found it very helpful, actually, to listen. So maybe you can do that as well, up to you. But maybe you want to see the screen. Maybe you want to see, because sometimes the teachers will use expressions to share the teachings. So maybe you need to see them as well. Okay, so as you just heard the Metta Sutta, I gather most of you would be aware of this scripture from the Pali Canon. And I think that even if you're not aware in the sense of like learning from it yet, today I plan to introduce you to it. And for those of you who are familiar with it, then hopefully I can give you some things to chew on mentally and maybe reinforce what it is you already understand, and maybe give you some other sort of ideas in relation to this. Now, I like to teach with using examples, which is really what the Buddha did. Use a lot of parables, but also the masters throughout the ages have done likewise. And I like to give these types of examples so that you can take them and then think about them later. I think when things are spoken in a short way, like either in verse form or like a parable, or like short examples, metaphors and the like, then I think we remember them better, and then we can contemplate them, and then of course then recall the longer explanation. Okay, I remember years ago I used to think, the longer things are more profound, but actually so often it's the shorter things that are more profound. And you need to understand the longer explanation to be able to understand the shorter version, the verse versions. Okay, so the Metta Sutta, I have it here just so I don't forget little points. The first verse, I should mention this, I wrote a song with this called Universal Love. Okay, so related to me writing a mini musical about the universal love of the Buddha. So the actual story of where, when, and why the Buddha gave this teaching, this Metta Sutta teaching. And so the first verse that I have it in 4 verses, okay? I think the Pali version, maybe 10 verses, but I put it in the 4 verses to fit in with the music, but mainly to fit in with the subject, okay? Because a certain part of this sutta, the first part is related predominantly to morality, or sila. The second part is related predominantly to meditation, or bhavana. And the last part is related predominantly to insight, or wisdom, or prajna, okay? So the first, in the way that I've put it together, there's the song, 4 verses. The first verse is the one that predominantly relates to morality. You could also call morality discipline, ethical conduct, and other words too, other phrases. And then the second and third verses are related to meditation predominantly. The last verse, the 4th one, is wisdom. Okay, so, but of course, these are all intermingling, just as we call the Eightfold Path, a fold path, where everything's folding into each other. Everything's interconnected. It's the same with this scripture. Okay, so the first word relates to the last word and all of the ones in between. So what I'll do is I'll give you an overview, which I've already started to do, right now. And then we will have a look and dissect each word or phrase, okay? And I'll make sure I've only decided today to not make it the full screen so that I can see my clock so I don't go over time. And I'll make sure that we have enough time for Q&A and some other discussion as well. So the first verse, morality. Morality can also be known as the higher training in morality. And this, of course, relates to the Eightfold Path as well. The higher training in morality related to the Eightfold Path is right speech, right action, and right livelihood. I won't give commentary on those right now because that's another subject. But also, I remember the last talk I gave for you, I gave a brief commentary on one of my songs, the Enlightenment, the teaching song, which had the Eightfold Path in it. And I recall enumerating the different types of wrong speech, right speech, and so forth. So you can have a look at that. Or research yourself. I encourage you to always be really curious about the Dharma, you know. You can Google, but be careful on Google because not everything is very accurate. Or look in books, ask other teachers, attend or participate in other Dharma talks. Or you can also ask me. You can shoot me a message, email, messenger, text message, call, anything, okay, anytime. And so, right speech, right action, right livelihood. That's kind of like an overview of the first verse. Then you have the second and third verses. I should mention that this morality part of the Eightfold Path is number 3, 4, and 5. Then number 6, 7, and 8 is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And this relates to the meditation aspect. You have to excuse me today. I've really got quite it's not severe really, but allergies. It's been quite windy down here, especially the last 3 days. So if I sneeze, I apologize ahead of time. And if I have to clear my throat, I apologize ahead of time. But the human condition, you know, First Noble Truth is Noble Truth of suffering. Cause of suffering is my attachment based on ignorance, but I think I'll blame it on allergies today. Okay, so a little bit of humor for you. Anyway, so the meditation part, second and third verses. Now, continuing the overview, the last verse relates predominantly to right understanding and right thoughts. Right understanding can also be known as right view, and right thoughts can be known as the right intentions. Okay, so also it's really important for us to know that universal loving kindness, or metta, is one of the 4 immeasurables, or 4 Brahmavihara in Pali, which means sublime states of mind, also known as immeasurables because they can be developed beyond measure, just like we did in the loving kindness meditation before, throughout infinite space. And also they benefit or can benefit innumerable living beings. There's no limit to the benefits of these 4 immeasurables. Of course, the first 3 must be based on the 4th one, which is equanimity, or upekkha in Pali, upeksha in Sanskrit. Mind that is free from bias, free from attachment and aversion. Because when we have no bias, this means we can radiate this loving kindness out beyond limit, not just limited to our loved ones or those we find or we feel indifferent towards, but also to those beings that we're troubled by, and to all of the living beings. Like I mentioned in the loving kindness meditation related to animals and other living beings such as insects, there's many of them you may fear. Maybe you don't feel like extending loving kindness to them. But if you free your mind from attachment and from aversion, then you're able to bring these to mind and then radiate this loving kindness to them as well, and to all living beings without limit. This helps our mind, once again, to be free from hatred and greed and ignorance and so forth. Okay, all of the klesha, all of the mental afflictions that arise from ignorance, attachment, and aversion. So you could say that these beings that we fear, or these people that we don't like, actually are our greatest teachers in that sense, because we get to develop the qualities, the mental qualities, such as this universal love and kindness, more and more, because we're able to then let go of our aversion towards these types of beings. Okay, so I digress slightly. So four immeasurables are metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. In Pali, maitri, karuna, mudita, and upekkha in Sanskrit. Or in English, universal love and kindness, also closely related to the word mitra, which means friendliness, and karuna means universal compassion. And then, of course, we have the universal empathetic joy. Okay, so compassion, basically, the expression of compassion is the wish that all living beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And the expression of metta, all living beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Okay, so now let's dissect it. This is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. So you have to want to develop universal love and kindness, like anything in life. If you're not open to learning, if you're not really into doing it, you're probably going to stop. You're probably going to put it off, even if you have the opportunity to develop this, even if you have the opportunity to listen to the Dharma and then contemplate the Dharma and then even absorb your mind with the Dharma, you're probably not going to do it. You have to have the interest. So already be skilled in having this interest. Realize, even if it's only a concept, a faraway concept at the moment, that we are all interdependent, all interrelated. And that even those beings, as mentioned before, that we find difficult, we are related to them as well. Okay, so even if it's just a concept, this will help us to increase what the Buddha called here skilled. So this is the work for those who are skilled in developing the good qualities, the qualities that eventually can become what we can call enlightened qualities. And peaceful already, so the mind is already reasonably peaceful, even if it's only for a few seconds at a time, because we haven't practiced meditation enough yet. And seek the good. So we want to become better. We want to let go of the unwholesome, both from the point of view of our mind as well as our physicality and our verbal abilities. We want to become more virtuous, more wholesome in relation to our body, speech, and mind. And so that'll do for that. This is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. May they be able and upright. Now, of course, the Buddha is talking about may they, but this is us, okay, right now. So I can say you or we or whatever, but I'll stick to the words in the actual scripture, but you will know what I'm talking about. May they be able and upright. Upright. In other words, if we perceive that we have engaged in some negative actions, you apply the antidotes. You now engage in the opposites. So if we have behaved and created some negative karma, for instance, based on greed, then you become more generous. Based on hatred or dislike, you become more loving, more kind, more compassionate. But also there are other purification practices you can engage in from the different Buddhist traditions as well. I don't have the time to go into those at the moment. I myself practice the Vajrayana techniques, what we call the Vajrasattva Buddha practice. And what you do, first of all, is you bring to mind any negativities you've been involved in, and you have a positive, non-clinging regret for having engaged in these negative activities, even if it's just thoughts, for instance. Then you have a strong resolve not to do it again, or at the very least, decrease the habits that cause you to engage in this negativity. Then you are doing this towards a virtuous object, a Buddha, for instance, or your teachers, some being that you find to be virtuous. And then you engage in the practice. The practice includes visualization and some mantra and so forth. But you don't have to engage in this practice. You can also engage in the 28 Buddha practice, which I think is practice in Theravada tradition, 108 Buddha practice in other Mahayana traditions, and others as well. So it's helpful to purify, to engage in these purification practices. It's not magic. You yourself have to make the effort. These are techniques taught by the Buddha, taught different techniques because us human beings are all different, you know, so we may be attracted to certain practices, and so we should engage in those, and so forth. I digressed again. So able and upright, so able to learn, able to then contemplate on this universal love and kindness, and then able to absorb your mind with this universal love and kindness. Okay, so honest, of gentle speech and not proud. Very important to be honest. Who are we being honest to? If you're using those purification practices, like I just mentioned, you think you're being honest to the Buddha. Yes, you are, but really you're being honest to yourself, utilizing the methods and the techniques to be able to be honest to yourself. If we're not honest to ourselves, how can we, first of all, get to know our good qualities that we need to improve and nurture, eventually perfect? How can we perceive the faults that we need to relinquish, decrease, eventually totally eradicate? We have to be honest to ourselves, look deeply into our mind. At the same time, regulating our speech and our body to help us to purify the mind as well. They all work together. Gentle speech, once again, related to the discipline of right speech. Okay, so, but also include right actions and right livelihood. And not proud. This is an interesting one, isn't it? So often, especially in what I find in Western countries, English-speaking countries, pride is a big deal. You always want to, be proud of yourself, proud of your children, proud of your friends, proud of your footy team, proud of whatever. But actually, pride is clinging pride that arises from attachment to self, which arises from the ignorance. Actually is a klesha. It's actually one of the 6 root delusions. I mentioned 3 before that can also be known as the 3 poisons: ignorance, attachment, and aversion. And from these arise another 3, which is pride, which you can also add arrogant pride if you like, uncertainty or doubts. And this is uncertainty and doubts to the Buddha, towards the Buddha, the teachings, and also yourself, your abilities, and also wrong views. Okay, so believing in something that is not real to be real, and so forth and so on. Okay, so pride. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you are with other people, and you say another person, and you perceive this person to be higher than yourself. Then this pride can lead very quickly to jealousy and envy, and even further to low self-esteem, even depression and so forth. If you're with somebody that you see as an equal to yourself, it can give rise very quickly to unhealthy competitiveness, unnecessary, unhealthy competitiveness. Then if you're with somebody that you think is lower than you, it can give rise to arrogance and haughtiness, puffed up idea of yourself, where you're only looking at your good qualities and exaggerating them and forgetting your faults. Not good, not conducive for our practice. Okay, so pride, not a good thing. So once again, I repeat that line, because I think we finished that one. May they be able and upright, honest of gentle speech, and not proud. I should note here that actually the next subject that I'll be teaching for you in late April is the 6 paramitas. I thought to do the Metta Sutta, because this is from the Theravada tradition, and also the 6 paramitas from Mahayana tradition, to recognize both traditions. They're like that. And the 6 paramitas on Zoom. It took about 9 months to give commentary on that. And then the Metta Sutta, of course, I did include the where, when, and why teachings, including where it was spoken, the Jetavana Monastery, and the history of that. And actually, I think it took about 7 months. Okay, so the actual teaching part, which we're doing today, took about 4 months. Okay, so we're going to be fitting 4 months of Zoom classes, short ones, into one class. Okay, so I'm not going to harp on too much, but I wanted to give a nice beginning, some nice detail at the beginning. So now I will do it a little bit quicker. May they be content and easily supported, a contented mind, a mind that is reasonably free from wanting this and not wanting that, of being picky and choosy, of being actually a mind that is accepting. You know, I think that it's always very nice to be around people that are contented like this. In other words, they don't want too much. You know, they don't want too little. They're always not trying to push away things that you may be offering them. A nice vibe, maybe they don't want the nice vibe even, you know. But this is important for us when we are learning and developing a mind of loving kindness based on equanimity, that we are contented like this, not always desiring stuff. And easily supported. In other words, it's just a backup of being contented, isn't it? You know, I think I'll leave it that there. Unburdened with their senses calmed, so not burdened by too much attachment and other mental afflictions. You know, the habitual tendencies, such as getting angry in certain circumstances and the like. Unburdened with their senses calmed. And this relates to, you know, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, and what we think, the mind sense as well. And then related to all of the objects that we come into contact with. The contact, of course, is the consciousness, our experience with that. Not to be blown off the path by what we call the 8 worldly winds, you know, of gain and loss, and pleasure and pain, and fame and shame, praise and blame. What we know is the 8 worldly concerns, or the 4 pairs. Always wanting this and not wanting that. Okay, so this is really small writing. I didn't want to put my reading glasses on. Unburdened when their senses calmed. May they be wise and not arrogant. I think I've covered that already. So wise, maybe this is not perfection of wisdom yet, but at least be wise, be considerate, you know, be mindful, look after your attitude, be aware without attaching to the awareness, and then be conscientious and, like I said, considerate of others around you as well. And unburdened with their senses calm, may they be wise, not arrogant, and without desire for the possessions of others. So, you know, not be envious. Somebody gets a new car or a new computer or a new iPhone or something. You want it, you know. Be contented with what you have, okay? Don't always want what others have. Rejoice if other people have better conditions than you, if other people have better physical things than you. So yeah, rejoice in that. That's the third of the immeasurables, isn't it? Mudita, rejoicing in the successes of others, and especially on the Dharma path. Without desire for the possessions of others, may they do nothing mean, or that the wise would reprove. So obviously avoid being mean, avoid being abusive with your words, obviously abusive with your actions, and engage in a livelihood that brings benefit and doesn't bring harm. And I think that will do for the first verse, where it says here, the wise would reprove. I think human beings generally are looking for approval from other beings. So if you are like that, if you have to have approval from, make sure other beings, make sure they're wise, compassionate, and loving. You don't have to get approval from those who are behaving badly, that's for sure. But actually, the only approval that you really need is yourself. Going back to the word, very important word in the start of that verse, and that is honest. Be honest to yourself. So how are we doing time-wise? Okay. All right. So then we have the meditation part. This is now absorbing the mind through the practice of meditation. Of course, we have these words here. So first of all, you hear them, engage the wisdom of hearing, and then engage the wisdom of contemplating. We contemplate, we investigate and analyze these words and these phrases, and these verses, this sutta, so that we can absorb our mind with it in meditation practice, okay? And the Buddha says, all sentient beings, first of all, may all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. And so I'll just dissect that verse very quickly. May all sentient beings be happy. So you want them to have the causes of happiness. So we are not only thinking, an abstract idea, I want people to be happy and laughing and smiling. Actually, you want them to be virtuous. You are wishing that they engage in the causes of happiness, that they are generous, that they are moral and patient, enthusiastic, and, like I mentioned, virtuous, engaging in wholesome thoughts of what is actions of body and words as well. So it's not just thinking happy. Happiness doesn't come from thinking about it. You have to cause it. We are living in samsara right now, cause and effect. This cycle of existence. We haven't broken the existence or the cycle yet, have we? We are not a Buddha. We are not Arahant yet. Important word is yet. Okay. The more we practice accurately, consistently, then the quicker we will achieve good results along the way, and eventually the ultimate result of enlightenment, whatever you call it, whatever you think it is. Right now, we can't explain it with words. It's inexpressible and unthinkable. We can't explain it through using concepts even. But we can definitely tell you what is not. It's not anger. It's not greed. It's not ignorance. Okay. So I digressed again, but that's okay. So may all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. Now, what can we do to help them feel safe? We can develop this universal love and kindness in ourselves. The more that we are friendly, the more that we genuinely practice the Dharma and develop this genuine love and kindness based on equanimity, the more people will feel safe around us. The more that they're going to be joyful. So we can do this by developing this universal love and kindness ourselves, and then radiating it outwards, first of all with our mind, and then through our actions and our words. Let's do the best we can, okay, with no expectation of good results. And then actually, it will be more natural over time to do this. The expectation, you have to let go of expectation. Okay? That's just another expression of strong attachment and aversion. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong. Of course, this is actually depends on your own perspective, isn't it? What is weak, what is strong? But we don't have time to go into that today. Okay, so whatever beings you regard as weak, could be a little baby rabbit. Strong could be the big lion or the jungle. Whatever you perceive as weak and strong, think about that. Okay. I think it took probably about 3 classes to actually go through this verse. Previously, great or small, similar. Short or tall. I'll just give a funny little anecdote, I guess, in relation to myself. Some people tell me I'm very tall, 6'3", I think 191 or 192 centimeters. But I had a friend long time ago now, my 20s, and he was an AFL footballer, and he was 6'10". So I was really short compared to him. So you see how this short or tall, it depends on your perspective. And some people say, oh, it's so good that you're tall, you can see over crowds. And I say, but not in a crowded airplane, not in economy with my knees up under my chin. So maybe if you're short, you have it better. Once again, different perspective. It's all relative, isn't it? But the Buddha is pointing out all different types of beings. Obviously, a short being, a small being, could, from our perspective, would be something like an ant. But maybe we are tiny too, yeah, compared to the whales in the ocean, compared to some beings on other planets, maybe. Maybe we are tiny. If you look at some of the Buddha's teachings, people of all different shapes and sizes all over the place. May they all be happy. May they all engage in the causes of happiness. Whether they're seen or unseen, near or distant, in other words, whether you can physically see them now or just bring them to mind, or maybe you don't even know about them. For instance, I believe that probably the vast amount of living beings we still don't know about even on this planet, because we can't go to the depths of the oceans. I've seen some pictures of some really weird looking things down there that they've been able to take pictures of, but still they can't go all the way down. So we don't know about these beings. Still extend this love and kindness to them as well. Born or to be born. So this is a living being, maybe has just passed away, is now just about to be born. May they also be happy and find, be safe and be joyful, May they all be happy. The next part says, let no one deceive or despise another being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm upon another. So we definitely should avoid these states of mind to deceive people. Once again, going back to being honest. And then despising, in other words, strong dislike. Basically, probably to do with hopes and fears in that case. And let none by anger or hatred wish harm upon another. So be harmless. This word metta, when translated to English, we can use lots of words because it's a multifaceted word. Friendliness, I mentioned this during our meditation. Friendliness, acceptance, harmlessness, non-violence, and all of these types of qualities, okay, can come under the heading metta. Just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so let one cultivate a boundless love towards all sentient beings. So even though this is still limited, like the love of a mother to a child is a very good example of what we can understand. And even the child in the womb, and then even after birth, we can think of the mother's love and the fact that she would most likely give up her life before giving up the child's life. We should think like this. Okay, you don't have to give up your life, all right? Otherwise you can't practice Dharma. Maybe you forget next life. So practice now, okay? But this is your mind, absorbing your mind with these qualities and this spirit. It's still limited, of course. This is still not what we call metta as such, but it's a good example, probably the best example that we can have. Her only child with her life, even so, let one cultivate a boundless love towards all sentient beings, without exception now. Let one radiate this boundless love towards the entire world, above and below and in all directions, without hindrance, without ill will, without enmity. Enmity is another word for unfriendliness. Amity means friendliness. So without having harmful intentions, and also without having any hindrances, such as the hindrances of believing in yourself too much and focusing only on your own well-being, or even forgetting yourself and focusing on some other beings that you may have attachment towards. So we do that as well. We don't look after our own state of mind often, as well as our physical well-being as well. So I think we'll leave it there, because during our metta bhavana, the loving kindness meditation, I went through some of these points. In other words, that's the reason why I like to do this. We marry two techniques of metta bhavana together, extending to different types of living beings, but then extending it distance-wise. Okay, so I think we've covered that for the time being. Now we are on to, give me a thumbs up if you're happy if I move on to the wisdom aspect. Yeah. If you want more Give me a thumbs down if you want to, if you want me to explain more. Up to you. I'm here for you, you know. And okay, so the next bit says standing or walking, sitting or lying down. So in other words, always, here and now. I alluded to that before. Before class, I think. When do we practice the Dharma? When do we develop this universal love and kindness? Just here and now. Doesn't matter if you're in a monastery or a Dharma center like the Metta Center, or in a house, on the beach, in a cave, you know, wherever, on an airplane, wherever you are, and here and now. Now is when you practice. So important. And because if we keep putting it off, oh, you know, I'm standing right now, I'll wait till I'm sitting. Then by the time you get sitting, you may have forgotten. Maybe then you put it off, oh, I'll wait till I go to bed, lying down. Or maybe I'll do walking meditation instead. Actually, the Buddha is pointing out these 4 different postures that actually cover always. We're always either standing, sitting, walking, or lying down. Walking can include running and, you know, any movement. Lying down is obviously any type of reclining, not just sleeping. Sitting, whether you're sitting on a stool, whether you're sitting on a chair, a couch, on the floor, on a cushion, legs crossed or not. This is sitting. And standing, of course, is any time that you could be standing, actively standing, waiting in a supermarket to get served with your mask on, social distancing. And so you can be doing this, it's active. Or you could just be standing on the beach, just emptying your mind from all of the day's worries. These postures include everything, okay? Then during all one's waking hours, this is a good point here. While we are awake, train the mind. Even if you have to engage in other activities such as your work and studies and other hobbies, physical fitness, things like that, then still keep your mind upright, mindful, aware, conscientious. Practice during all of our waking hours, because if we do this, then we will develop the habit of practicing while we sleep, while we are not awake, or semi-awake sometimes. During all of those, you know, the shallow sleep time, the deep sleep times, the dream state time, we're actually going to have virtuous mind. Because years ago I found out, you know, from listening to, actually His Holiness Dalai Lama, I think maybe early 90s, and he said, be careful to practice during your awake hours, because we do create karma in our sleep. So you want to create good karma in your sleep, don't you? Having wholesome dreams, wholesome thoughts, not nasty things where you're doing nasty things. Of course, we're not following through with our physical actions and our words while we're dreaming. It's all mental phenomena, but still can create some negativities by sleep. So really I encourage you to really be mindful and aware to practice while we're awake, and then you will sleep better. Actually, your dreams can be quite entertaining during that time, and you can even teach yourself during the dreams. Okay. Where are we? So during all one's waking hours, may one remain mindful of this heart and this way of living that is the best in the world. So this universal love and kindness, it is the best way to live in the world. In the world relates to all of those innumerable living sentient beings, okay? We don't know the count. We don't know how to count how many living beings are here. Even in your garden now, if you went outside in the garden, you couldn't count the living beings that are out there, all the insects, even the microscopic ones that we can't see with our eyes, and even can't see through microscopes, some of them, so small. So During all one's waking hours, may one remain mindful of this heart, this way of living that is the best in the world. If you develop a mind of loving kindness, absorb your mind with this loving kindness, based on equanimity, and then in turn based on true insight and true wisdom, then you will be good influence all the time. Okay, this is the best way. I like to say, people say, related to the Dharma, some languages, English language is not so great to explain the Dharma. But I would say this, and I'm getting somewhere with this comment, by the way, so be patient with me. English is the best language for the Dharma for English speakers. Of course, you should use the root language as well. Learn some Pali, learn some Sanskrit, or if you're practicing from other Buddhist traditions that have had a long history and have, early translations, then learn those languages as well so you can compare. But whatever language is your first language, that is the best language to learn the Dharma from. But to go beyond that, what is the next best language? Metta. Metta and Karuna. Best language. You don't need words with it. You don't even need expression with it. Physical expression, I mean. Comes from your heart. Like I said a bit earlier, people feel safe around you. They'll feel the so-called vibes. But even better than that, with the spirit of metta, silence. Silence is the true international language, isn't it? I'll leave you with that. So the next one is unattached to speculations, views, and sense desires. So we're always speculating, aren't we? We're always kind of guessing a little bit. Boy, this is that, that is this. Oh, I like this flower. I don't want it to go away. But it's already changing. It's impermanent. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent. They have the nature of changing, and they have the nature of being unsatisfactory due to this and other factors. And there is no self to be found anywhere. We tend to impute and label everything, give it a name, give it a concept. And those things we find pleasing, we tend to get attached to. Those things we find unpleasant, we tend to push away, have aversion towards. We speculate on this. We have views. We develop views which can become very strong views. If it's right view, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and no self or emptiness of self as being how all conditioned phenomena is within cyclic existence, then that's the right view. That's a good view. That nirvana, even though we don't know what it is fully yet, is freedom from all of this, unconstrained by concepts, dualistic way of thinking and the like. If we understand, that's good, okay? But we can let go even of that view. Okay, so our opinions, you could say that our opinions stop us from understanding the truth, even if our opinions are correct from a relative point of view. Let them go. That doesn't mean you won't remember them when you need them. All of your studies in university, high school, whatever, let go of all that learning. Then when you need it, recall it. The more you develop this universal loving kindness, as well as good concentration, good insight, the more we will remember everything that we need to remember, that we have learned. But right now, as we develop the loving kindness, let go of all of these views. Let go of all of this speculating. Let go of opinions. So, unattached speculations, views, and sense desires with clear vision. If you let go of all these things, you will have clear vision. Such a person will never be reborn in the cycles of suffering. When we achieve this state, we are enlightened. Okay, so we don't have time to go into the different stages of enlightenment. Maybe we can do that when I come back with you in April and give the commentary on the 6 paramitas, especially when we talk about the perfection of wisdom, the prajna paramita. All right, so I think that'll do for now. It's 8:13, so we have a little bit of time for some Q&A. Are you happy with that? Did I keep it short enough without going blah, 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 blah?
It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Dharma Master. So I'm now going to open the floor to anyone who has a question. So whether you're here in person or online, and for those online, I did send a chat earlier. If you have a question, just pop it into the chat box. So if you want to keep it anonymous, you can also send it to me directly. And I have one anonymous question to offer to Dharma Williams. The question is this. Is metta...
That's funny. You called me Dharma Williams.
Sorry, Dharma Master Williams.
I've never been called Dharma Williams before.
It's got a nice ring to it, actually.
maybe if there's another Williams out there that has a child, maybe you can utilize that. All right, go on.
Okay, so the question is this. Is metta a thought, a wish, or a feeling, or all three? How does one know if one is practicing it right?
Okay, so yes, it's all three. It's a thought. First of all, we have an aspiration, which gives rise to feeling. So the aspiration is so that we can develop this universal love and kindness to share with others, not just for ourselves, you know. And then we consider others, we share it with others. And then we have this aspiration and this wish that these living beings realize true happiness by engaging in the causes of happiness, that they themselves purify their mind and engage in only, you know, virtuous or harmless actions of the body and of the speech. And what was the last one? So thought, feeling.
A wish.
Yes. Did I cover that already? Yeah?
All three.
Okay, yeah. So basically covered that. So it is all that. It's all related. It radiates, or initially is generated in our own mind, and then we radiate it outwards. And then like throwing a pebble in a pond, to use that very well-known example. The ripples go everywhere. You know, you throw the pebble in the pond. In other words, you yourself develop this love and kindness, radiate it outwards, this feeling outwards, and then other living beings get to experience it as well. You can teach it to them. They may say, oh, how come you're so happy? You can say, oh, this is what I do. I practice meditation, and this is the way I think, you know, to be kind, and so forth. You can then encourage them to also be like that. And what was the second part of that question?
How does one know if one is practicing it right?
Well, you will know, first of all, if the negative mental afflictions have diminished. For instance, you're getting less angry, especially, you know, that we have a habitual tendency to get angry during certain circumstances, or when certain circumstances arise in our life through habit. But when we are now less likely to get angry, especially quickly, so then we can, because if we impulsively react like that, then it's very difficult to just kind of wind it back. But if now we stop and go, oh, I'm getting angry, let it be, then you know that you are developing certain good qualities such as love and kindness, but also, you know, less hatred. Right now, we have a mind that thinks in a dualistic way, conceptual dualistic thinking, okay? We think with opposites. So the opposite of love and kindness is dislike, or when it's really fully blown, it's hatred. If your mind has less hatred, less dislike, then you are replacing it in a relative sense with this universal love and kindness. If your mind is free from hatred, free from dislike, then I would say you have absorbed your mind to a certain degree quite well with the universal love and kindness. If you are friendly to yourself, accepting of yourself, grateful to yourself, then you are developing this loving kindness in yourself. If you are really caring for other living beings, and even now, this is kind of like marrying with compassion, but it's even, you could say get upset, but not get upset like a sort of emotional upset. But you take upon the suffering of others, you see others that are not happy, and you yourself actually take upon yourself and go, oh, I want to change that. I want to help them to change that. You know, caring especially for vulnerable people, people in need, you know, people that are not well. If we can alleviate their suffering, we should do so. Begins with a thought, but then it goes into action. The same, if we want them to be happy, starts with a thought and then put into action. The action could just be, you know, showing them through silence. You know, but if we can at all help verbally or through physical actions. And then, like I said before, teaching. You know, we can all teach the Dharma. You know, if you learn certain aspects of the Dharma really well, and then, you know, really absorb your mind with them, and then you can radiate outwards. And you can share silently, or you can share just through a few words here and there, or point them in the right direction, what to read or what to look into, or who to ask questions. You know, human beings are very curious. So sometimes I think it's nice to give them some things to be curious about that are beneficial, including this universal loving kindness. So that's, I think, enough.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the answer. So the next question is this: is metta practice also in other traditions or religions? Sometimes I think of Jesus on the cross and him giving all the love and compassion to the soldier who was hurting him, saying, "Forgive him, Father, for he does not know what he is doing." So powerful and striking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain element of universal loving kindness. I have never practiced the other traditions. You know, I was born in Wales, in Great Britain, but and our family was obviously born in the Christian family. But I myself, I don't recall. I did like certain things. Like I remember the movie 10 Commandments came out. I quite liked that movie as a child. But I never really had a belief in a creator God, creation theory. The universal law of karma, of course, condition and effect, was always, even as a child, even though I didn't really know the terminology very well, this is the way I was thinking now that I look back at it. So I can't really compare. But yeah, when you say words like that, then there's a certain level of love and kindness there, of course. Certain level of compassion, you know, wanting them to be free from suffering. And also, you know, rejoicing in their goodness and so forth. Maybe the difference is the mind of equanimity, free of attachment and aversion, even though I do believe there are certain traditions from other religions that have very similar concepts, and including some religions that are probably no longer practiced. Such as ancient Greek teachings and some other ones like that, probably have the concept, but where Buddhism is different, and, you know, once again, I can't compare, is in the teaching of emptiness, shunyata, of anatta, no self, and also from Mahayana Buddhist point of view of the Tathagata Garbha, which means the Buddha nature. So the fact that all living beings have the potential to be an enlightened Buddha, that is actually our true nature. And what we are doing by practicing the Dharma is unveiling this true nature. So we're kind of uncovering enlightenment in a sense, rather than going to get it. You know, we're not getting it as such. It's already there, but obscured by what it can appear to be inexhaustible delusions. All right, but they are exhaustible if we practice. So that's the big difference. Whereas some of the other traditions, such as the monotheistic traditions or the one God traditions, they attribute everything going back to the God. And Buddhism, we don't do that. Of course, we have many realms of existence, of which there's some of these realms have gods from human perspective. Okay, so yeah, too big a question to really go in details. And I also, because I'm giving the shorter answer, I have to be really careful not to come across like I'm putting other philosophical or religious beliefs down, because I'm not. I think if the other religions, if they are practiced well, then the beings can be very kind and relatively wise and so forth. We're all sharing in our Metta Bhavana before, loving kindness. We didn't exclude Christians, did we?
No.
We didn't exclude monsters or hell beings or any types of heavenly beings. We didn't exclude anybody. Okay, so, but yeah, I mean, if other people want to look into other religious teachings, that's your choice. Personally, I think the Dharma covers everything, but maybe some other people think their religion covers everything. So
thank
good
you.
luck.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, so we've got about 7 minutes left and we've got a few questions. So here we go. The next question is this: if we are not yet ready to love our enemies, should we hold off instead of forcing oneself to do so and risking spiritual bypassing?
No, don't hold off. First of all, you can realize that those people that are behaving badly, you can call enemies or have behaved badly, they are doing this based on ignorance. We also have not purified our mind from ignorance totally yet. So in that sense, we are the same, in a sense, okay? That's not condoning bad behavior. And realize also that they, in their true nature, are enlightened beings. But also they don't know themselves. They are behaving badly and don't realize how much negativity they're causing themselves here and now and also into the future. So we must develop compassion for them as well, because we know that their very bad behavior will reap similar or even larger results, the vipaka, the results of the karma. Okay, so have compassion, have universal love and kindness. But first of all, as well, realize that when you extend this love and kindness from your own mind, your own heart, this benefits you first. So it's like forgiving. It's very closely related. Maybe what you're talking about or the people you may be talking about may have harmed you in the past. Then you forgive yourself for being in the situation. You forgive them if they behave badly. And what forgiving is doing, I like to say it's like putting down your mental baggage. It's all memories, isn't it? From the past that we're bringing into the present. We don't need to bring it. You know, if you go grocery shopping and you've got lots of bags and you're carrying these bags, you bring them home, you put them in the kitchen. Do you need to continue to carry the bags with the groceries in it? No, they're too heavy. Put them down. Now it's relaxing. It's the same mentally with these grudges we may carry around with us, the lack of forgiveness, the lack of loving kindness. We're probably carrying and burdening ourselves. So if you put this down, any vengeful thoughts, any grudges, put them down and you will actually feel much better. So no, include them, but do it like we did, you know, extend it to yourself first, then your loved one. So easy, unless you're arguing with them at that particular time. But then of course they turn into the enemies, don't they? And then of course with the beings that we're indifferent towards, we don't have attachment or aversion. It's quite simple as well. And then those people you may regard as enemies, because you were at that stage, you've already opened your mind, at least to the possibility of extending a loving kindness to them. Yeah, so don't limit your practice. Okay, be kind to yourself and go beyond the limit.
Yes. And I think what you've done is actually answered the other question in the chat, which is, what is the role of forgiveness in metta practice?
Yeah, well, it's actually another meditation that so often precedes metta practice or metta meditation. And that's, forgiveness. You can utilize, as we did earlier, you can just go with the feeling or bringing the people or groups of people or person to mind. Or you can use visualization as well, visualizing beings in front of you and so forth. But if you, first of all, forgive yourself for anything you may have done in the past that you feel you shouldn't have done, or anything you feel you should have done that you didn't do. You bring your mind into the present moment and you forgive yourself for this. It's all in the past already. It's finished with. Then you can extend or ask for forgiveness to somebody you may have harmed in the past. Have them in front of you and you say to them, I apologize for bringing you harm in the past, or words to that effect. Please forgive me. And then you can imagine them saying to you, thank you for apologizing. Yes, I do forgive you. And then you can say to each other or something like this in our mind, now we are free to move forward in our lives from this moment onwards. No need to hang on to these negative thoughts. And then you can imagine someone in front of you, actually, that may have brought you harm. They are admitting that and also asking for your forgiveness. So they're apologizing to you and, with deep regret. And then you accept their apology and then you forgive them and let them know, as they let you know, that now you're able to let go of these things and move on in our lives. And that's just a very brief. I think you can look it up, even in some books or even on the internet. Maybe you can check it out for longer versions of that. Okay, so yeah, forgiveness is very closely related. In fact, you could even use the word forgiveness under the umbrella of metta. Okay, as well as other words. Will that do?
Great, thank you. Yes. And we have time for just one more question, perhaps.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere, so It's all right. It's up to you guys.
Okay, so the question is this: how do we cultivate curiosity in something that we are just not curious about, but know that it's good for us?
Well, if you know it's good for you, just generate this curiosity, even if it's forced to begin with. If we are curious beings, generally, sometimes I think we are attached to being distracted. We try to distract ourselves with all sorts of things so we don't be responsible for the things we should be responsible with, such as a good thing, like you mentioned. Curiosity. How do we, what do you call it? Like quench our curiosity, quench our thirst, our curiosity. By, first of all, engaging in looking, isn't it? Easy to do on the internet these days, or in books, or giving someone a call, asking a question like this, listening to an answer. Very important to listen to the answer. I think sometimes as human beings, we're so distracted and so attached to being distracted, not wanting to really know things, that we ask a question. And if the question doesn't agree with what we think it should say, or the answer doesn't agree with what we think it should be, then we turn off or get angry even. Or actually, if you want an answer, in this, what I call these days, McDonald's mentality, wanting your burger, I don't eat meat, but it's a good example, wanting your veggie burger in 10 seconds or in 1 minute, you don't get it. You get frustrated and you go to Hungry Jack's. We want immediate answers and we want them in a short time. Actually, sometimes you have to be patient listen for longer periods to get your curiosity satisfied. You know, that's a better way to put it. So, yeah, listen to the answer and then think about the answer later. So, you know already something is good. That should give rise to wanting to satisfy your curiosity. Then you have to make the effort to do it. Then, even if it's still bugging you and you don't want to get off your butt and do it, then you have to persevere. Be courageous. Then once you start to get some good results, and even in this case, loving kindness, your mind starts to become more absorbed with it, more often, more consistently, you see the good results. You feel the good results. You're more contented, less worried, less anxious. This gives rise to natural enthusiasm. And then you start to create the momentum. You know, it's like entering a stream. You enter that stream now. The stream doesn't go backwards. Now you're going in the right direction. All right, so curiosity is a good thing, unless, of course, we have bad intentions. So make sure that with your curiosity, or your curiosity is based on good intentions, to learn, to be a benefit, to help living beings, including yourself, even though there's no self. So where do you practice? You practice here. When do you practice? You practice now. That's all. Quite simple and uncomplicated, really, isn't it? So I do the dedication prayer?
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Or is there more question?
Someone's just chimed into that and said perhaps have some faith. With faith comes some curiosity.
Yep.
Yeah. And
faith, yeah. It's let me add to that one first. Keep it brief. Faith in Buddhism maybe is different to other traditions. There's 3 types of faith or 4 types of faith. Okay. The first one is faith in the qualities of the Buddha and the Dharma. And you can also add the Sangha to that, the teachers as well. But generally the Buddha and the Dharma. Then the next level of faith is faith of emulation, where now you want to emulate these qualities yourself. You want to become these good qualities or realize these good qualities yourself. Then, but this has to be based on testing, isn't it? On analyzing, I should say investigating, then analyzing. Not just believing blindly, but also not just disbelieving blindly. Then the third type of faith is the faith of conviction, where you now have thoroughly tested these qualities and yourself, your ability to attain these qualities. And there's no more doubt, no more uncertainty. When these 3 types of faith are together and perfected, this is the 4th type of faith, which is perfect faith. Okay, so faith is gained through logical reasoning, utilizing our ability to contemplate, to investigate, to analyze honestly, without attachment or aversion. So that's that. But in saying that, we can have what some other traditions may call a leap of faith. Some of the teachings may be beyond our grasp right now. So you can have some faith that these teachings are accurate because of the ones you do understand. So let's say, for instance, you understand certain things are impermanent, constantly changing. You can see that in front of you right now. You see this computer, you can see everything's changing on the computer. You can see, and you could say an expression of the law of impermanence. But you can't see other countries right now. But you can have a leap of faith that in other countries, other things are also impermanent, that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, even though you can't see it with your eyes right now, and maybe not even perceive it clearly with your mind right now. You can have a leap of faith like that. And I like to say jokingly that the Buddha wasn't, our guide on the path saying, come on, let's go on the path. And then he takes you a certain way along the path. And then he turns around and he says, I was only kidding. You can't go any further. It's not like that at all. Okay. The emptiness teachings, the Buddha nature teachings, you'll never be able to understand them. No, he doesn't do that. He gives the teachings. We ourselves have to put the, basic things into practice, clear the mind, more and more and more, clear, like cleaning the window. Eventually you can see through the window, and because you've cleaned it so much, so now you have direct vision, the wisdom. All right. So, yeah. That just come from the word faith. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And I'm going to reiterate a comment in the chat. So the questioner earlier said, thank you for those tips and strategies, Venerable Andrew. And I would ditto that. Thank you. Thanks for those encouraging words. Wonderful talk. And I'm going to now pass over to our MC, Elise.
Yep. And don't forget the dedication before we finish.
That is exactly where I was heading. Thank you, Dharma Master Andrew.
Good.
I'd like to invite you to the dedication of merits and closing prayer, if you may.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that we may be able to benefit all sentient beings and free them from their suffering. May the precious body Chitta, not yet born, rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And just for those of you that may be interested to hear it in Tibetan, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya.